You know, it only lasts for 18 seconds, but I know it as well as I know my own name, and I'll bet many of you do too. The music's in my very marrow. As the scene begins, the front door opens and a handsome guy in an impeccably tailored suit has come home. He's greeted by his beautiful wife and young son, and she motions to him that they have guests in the form of two people sitting on the couch. Well, in his excitement to rush and greet them, he does a 1.5 gainer triple axel over the ottoman, and thus begins another episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show. Welcome back to the Mid-Century Vault. I'm your host, Philip Mershon, and in honor of his recent 100th birthday, let's have a visit with that gem of the mid-century, Dick Van Dyke. Dick is the embodiment of physical comic movement, a guy who could pratfall over furniture in 1 second and then stick the landing of a perfect Broadway dance number in the next. He invited us all to put on a happy face, and we gladly complied. Van Dyke's career, far from an overnight sensation, was a steady climb and seemingly destined from a young age. Raised in Danville, Illinois, he was, not surprisingly, a popular guy in high school with stage appearances, magic shows, and a student council presidency. A piece in the local paper at the time tells us that he was also a boogie-woogie enthusiast. Well, who amongst us isn't? In 1944, World War II called, and he left high school early for a stint in the Air Force's Special Services. Now, as strange as this sounds, lip-syncing to records wasn't always the sole province of drag artistes. It was actually once a very popular genre for nightclub comedy acts. Hence, after the war, Dick and Phil Erickson formed the Merry Mutes to hit the road and do just that. In '48, they were playing the Zephyr Room at the Chapman Park Hotel in Los Angeles, just across the road from the Brown Derby restaurant. The hotel was also the broadcasting location for the popular ABC radio game show called Bride and Groom, where couples would marry live on network radio and receive prizes for their efforts. Well, one day, Dick casually mentioned to the show's host that he was going to get married to his Danville sweetheart. "Bring her out and we'll do it on the show," host John Nelson said. This had been Dick's plan since he couldn't afford a wedding any other way. So out Marjorie Willett came to be wed in the company of a national radio audience, and the show gave them a honeymoon in Mount Hood, Oregon, and some home appliances. Next came years as a TV talk show host and announcer in Atlanta while he and Margie started a family. And then by the late 50s, and now under contract to CBS in New York, he was making various TV appearances when the big breakthrough came. In 1960, he landed a featured role in the Broadway musical Bye Bye Birdie, getting him the 1961 Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Musical Comedy. The great Carl Reiner had seen Dick in the play, and when CBS bought Reiner's sitcom idea but weren't sold on the idea of Reiner in the lead role, that's when he brought Dick Van Dyke out to Hollywood for the rest of us to meet and love for the next 5 years in one of the finest shows TV has ever known, which snagged 3 Emmy Awards for Dick. And during that era of American Camelot, my 3-year-old brain thought that Rob and Laura Petrie and President and Mrs. Kennedy were the same people. Like, they ran the country, but they also had a TV show. While TV made him a household name, he was certainly no slouch at the box office either. In 1963, he reprised his Broadway role for the movie adaptation of Bye Bye Birdie, and in '64, he starred as the lovable jack-of-all-trades with the overripe Cockney accent Bert opposite Julie Andrews in Disney's Mary Poppins. For this one, Van Dyke's work on the soundtrack got him a Grammy Award for the Best Children's Album. He capped off the decade of musicals in '68 as Caractacus Potts in the musical fantasy Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So we all know that he could sing and dance and make us laugh. But if you looked close, really studied some of his subtle, fleeting moments, you sensed that there was a deeper, darker, and more dramatic shading in there. That Dick, the dramatic actor, was able to surface the first time in the splendid 1968 black comedy Divorce American Style, co-starring Debbie Reynolds, who, everything I just said about Van Dyke being sunny and funny yet deeper, goes ditto for Reynolds. He continued to work across genres, including the dramatic Emmy-nominated performance as an alcoholic in the 1974 TV movie The Morning After. A generation later, he introduced himself to entirely new audiences as the crime-solving physician Dr. Mark Sloan in the long-running procedural drama Diagnosis Murder, which went from 1993 to 2001. And I love that show. Its stunt casting game was legit. His career achievements are simply too numerous and too staggering to list in a short bio exploration like this. In addition to the Emmy, Grammy, and Tony, he also holds a Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award and the once and future prestigious Kennedy Center Honors Award. He's carried the joy and energy of the mid-century era with him throughout his entire remarkable life, and in recent years has absolutely delighted us with social media appearances that demonstrate his never-ending sense of wonder at it all. Do you have a favorite episode of The Dick Van Dyke Show? For me, it would probably be about a 90-way tie. Please like and subscribe to the Mid-Century Vault for more trips back in time, and until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Put on a happy face.